save that story for last, because it's a doozy. If you haven't already heard, now by now I would imagine a lot of you probably have, this was one of the bigger stories circulating in social media and in the talk news radio circuit today. But beyond that, I also want to discuss a little bit. House Republicans are accusing the Obama administration of illegally funding parts of Obamacare through a different program. This is the second time now that the accusations of illegally funding part of Obamacare. We'll delve into the topics there. We'll hit the details. Also have a few other topics we wanted to discuss before we get too far into things, like the fact that the Marines are having to try and find a way to deal with the fact that the U.S. Navy has fewer ships available for them to be deployed on. So now U.S. Marines are looking at plans to possibly be deployed on board foreign ships. Yeah, there's a recipe for wackiness. We also are going to talk about this big push that evidently is a done deal now to put women, or at least a woman, they haven't selected who yet, on the $10 bill. Alexander Hamilton, what did you do to piss off Obama and company? I don't know. I guess maybe being one of the primary authors of the Federalist Papers, maybe that's enough with this administration. I don't know. I have given up trying to figure out what Obama and company are up to. But before we get into any of that, just an FYI kind of important story. At least I tend to think it's important. In case you have missed this one, there are 14 brands of bottled water that have been recalled over a possible E. coli outbreak. Now, this is important to know in case you are a consumer of bottled water, knowing that E. coli can very easily be contaminated in your drinking water. 14 separate brands of bottled water have been recalled due to a potential E. coli contamination, including food store brands ShopRite, Stop and Shop, Giant, Acme, and Wegmans. All of these are manufactured by Niagara-Bottling, and Niagara-Bottling has issued a voluntary recall for water bottled in its Pennsylvania facilities in Allentown and in Hamburg. These particular bottles that you should be looking for are marked with a code that begins with either an A or an F, respectively. That means an A for the Allentown and the F for the Hamburg. You know, I get A for Allentown. Not sure why Hamburg's getting an F. But these codes are often so that the companies know something that's going on, maybe how the equipment is operated, maybe which equipment is being used, what have you. At any rate, just in case you didn't know, the E. coli bacteria shows the water may be polluted with human or animal waste and can cause diarrhea, cramps, nausea, headaches, or other symptoms if consumed. There have been no reports of illness to this point. However, the following brands bottled between June 10th and June 18th are affected. Brands by the name of Arcadia, Acme, Big Y, Best Yet, 7-Eleven, Niagara, Nature's Place, Price Right, Super Chill, Morning Fresh, Shaw's, ShopRite, Western Beef Blue, and Wegmans. The company said that it was notified by its spring source of the contamination on June 10th and has since discontinued the use of the water source since it did not notify the company in a timely manner. So that, if you are someone that consumes these brands, and you are probably at highest risk if you are in and around the New Jersey area, is my understanding. It's something to keep in mind and something that you will definitely want to take a look at if you use these bottled waters, or if you know someone else who might. So be aware, take a look. And while E. coli typically isn't something that is going to cause you a tremendous amount of discomfort, the problem comes in at is if your immune system is down or is unnaturally weak. So if you are young, if you are old, if you are already sick, or if you're suffering from some type of long-term illness that affects your immune system, then you run the potential risk of everything from severe illness to death. That's very rare, but it is a possibility. So please pay attention if you're drinking bottled water. And this is just one of those things you need to keep an eye on all the time. It's very dangerous. We live in a dangerous world, boys and girls, and it's not just the terrorists trying to kill us. It's the bottled water. At any rate, not to make light of it, seriously, keep an eye out and just be aware. Okay, now let's switch gears real quick, and we'll talk about the women on the $10 bill. In case you've been living in a box or somewhere in a cave or under a rock, you probably heard not too long ago that there was a major push to try and replace Andrew Jackson on the 20 with a woman or even a series of women. Okay, fair enough. I, for one, I don't buy into the argument of taking Andrew Jackson off of the $20 bill. Again, mostly because he's been there for a while. It's a matter of habit. I'm a creature of habit. I think most people tend to be. And I don't necessarily want people going around changing who's on my money all willy-nilly. I don't really have a better reason than that. I'm not about to defend Andrew Jackson's presidency. He did some bad things. He did some good things, but he did some bad things. So, if you're not happy with him, fine. I think you should leave it alone. That's just me. Take it for what it's worth, and I'll grant you, in this case, because I have no real reason other than the fact I don't want to change, it's not worth much. I will grant you that. But then, all of a sudden, this, boom, well, we're just going to do it on the 10. Now it's not even up for discussion. There's no movement. The petitions have been tossed away. Evidently, there was some pushback to defend Andrew Jackson. Strangely enough, among Democratic fundraising. So, rather than risk the potential ire of Democratic donors, they decided they're going to leave the 20 alone after all. But because they were already planning on a redesign for the $10 bill, suddenly this becomes a much easier change, and there's really not too many people that are going to stand up and defend Alexander Hamilton, who is currently on the $10 bill. Alexander Hamilton actually was the first Treasury Secretary, just FYI, and he was one of the primary authors of the Federalist Papers. In fact, he wrote the overwhelming majority of them. Off the top of my head, I don't remember all of them, but most of them Alexander wrote. Now, I have to say I don't necessarily agree with all of the policies of Mr. Hamilton, but he did some amazing things, especially for the time. He essentially instituted the United States monetary policy, and he did a lot of noteworthy things that, in my mind, makes him worthy of being on U.S. currency. And evidently, even as part of the compromise to do this, is he's still going to appear on the bill somewhere. I don't understand that either. It's like either he's on or he's off. He's in or he's out. What's the deal? Somebody please explain to me why you feel the need to put somebody else on it if you're going to leave him on it. I just don't get it. But here's the other thing. It really aggravates me, and I think I have a valid reason for being aggravated here that people can get behind. Follow me, if you will. If you disagree, that's fine. I could be wrong here. I never pretended to be perfect and knowing everything. But isn't it aggravating to anyone else, especially women's rights activists, that there seems to be this need to exclude the possibility of anyone other than a woman here? It's like some kind of strange, deranged, affirmative action kind of thing. Wouldn't it be better? I'm just spitballing here. Wouldn't it be better if, instead of saying, okay, only women can be considered for this, we just looked at it and said, okay, who's worthy of being on our currency? There are some women that are worthy of being on our currency and can hold their own in a head-to-head competition with several other men who are also worthy. And shouldn't we just kind of let them battle it out? I mean, we're not talking celebrity deathmatch here. We're just talking about, all right, let's let the public decide if you're going to do this. Why limit it? Isn't the sign of true equality is when you let men and women go head-to-head and the best person wins regardless of gender? Isn't it, in fact, almost insulting to women to say, well, you can't possibly compete based on your accomplishments if you're just a woman. So let's make it easier for you. Isn't that the case? Isn't that true? I mean, is that just me? I don't know. In fact, you know what? I would love to hear your feedback on that. If anybody wants to hop in the chat room that's listening to the show and give me some feedback on that, any reasonable comments, I'll be happy to go ahead and put out there on the air. If you catch this show via podcast after the fact and you'd like to comment, please go to tapintothetruth.com. Down near the bottom of the homepage, there's a section where you can send me a message, or you can just send me an email directly at ttap@tapintothetruth.com. And all worthy comments will make a future broadcast. I would love to hear from you guys on this one. What do you think? Am I wrong with what I'm saying? Who should we put on the $10 bill if we're going to take Hamilton off? Why are we looking at taking Hamilton off? I mean, I would almost rather deal with Andrew Jackson. Let's have that discussion. I mean, Andrew Jackson does have some black marks on his record that Alexander Hamilton doesn't. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't get it. Why the push to force a woman onto the U.S. currency? We have other women who have been on coins, and personally, I think the coins are cooler. Again, that's just me. The paper money's worthless. Most of the coins are pretty much worthless, too, but, that's the risk you run of having fiat currency. But still, isn't it almost insulting? Or maybe I'm just being oversensitive. Maybe I'm starting to become like a liberal. Ready to be offended at the drop of a hat. Say it's not so. Okay, anyway. We're going to take a quick break. And after the break, we're going to take a look at, well, let's talk about the Marines and how there's just not enough boats for them. Stay with me, and we'll be right back.